Hi everybody, welcome. This is part 3 in the Wizard of Light, Love of Photography. So I want to talk about the correlation between the three main settings in your camera, specifically the aperture, the shutter speed, and the ISO. Now, after this particular video presentation, I'm going to dedicate one for each one of those categories. But I want you to understand an overview. So if you already know this, you might want to skip through this, or it's good review, or if you're like confused how a basic exposure is created, this is perfect for you. So watch this one and the next 3 in the series because they all tie in together when we're talking about what are the 3 things within the triangle: ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. They all work in perfect harmony to create ultimately an exposure. So if you have an exposure that's not properly exposed, like this image here, maybe it's too dark and it'll look like this. If you have an exposure that is properly created, it'll look like this. And likewise, if you have an exposure that looks like this, then you know it's overexposed. So the goal here is to create an exposure that is well balanced. And you do this by working with the settings in your ISO, your aperture, and your shutter speed. This is pretty basic stuff, but whenever I teach this in a course, a lot of people don't understand it yet. So it's good to know. So the ISO is sensitivity. The lower the ISO, the less sensitive your setting is on your sensor. The higher the ISO, the more sensitive it is. Again, I'm going to explain that and show you exact examples as to how that works and when the best application is for your ISO settings. The shutter speed, think of the shutter speed like the blink of an eye. So a quick shutter speed is a quick blink, a slow shutter speed is a slower blink, and that determines the amount of time that the light is coming through the lens, hitting the sensor, which has been preset at a certain ISO. So you got the ISO, you got your shutter speed, and then you got your aperture, which is determined by the hole in the lens. So the lens, it's kind of counterintuitive because the larger the hole in the lens, the more light it lets in, but the smaller the number it is. A lot of lenses are set at maximum aperture, maximum, the widest it'll go will be, say for example, 2.8. Some lenses are 1.8, 1.4. Those are more professional lenses. Some of the slower lenses are kit lenses and zoom lenses. They're at about 3, 3.5, somewhere around there. There's no right or wrong. They all work. But there'll be a maximum aperture. That's the fastest speed of that particular lens. So the bigger the hole, the more light it lets in. So the smaller the hole, the bigger the number, the less light it lets in. So again, it's kind of counterintuitive. So the 3 work in perfect harmony. It's like a reciprocity. If you adjust one, you have to adjust the other 2. So you have to sort of become aware of those things. When I teach Photography 101, I teach all my students and I challenge you to do the same thing. Put your camera on manual. I'm going to cover in a couple lessons from now this particular setting in more detail, but I want you to start thinking in terms of manual exposure. Don't go to program, don't go to aperture priority or shutter priority or any of the other settings or presets on your camera. Go to manual, and I want you to force yourself to think about the situation you're in so that you can start using the greatest computer of all. That's the one between your ears. So I challenge you, set your camera on manual and start shooting that way right now. And learn how to set your aperture, learn how to set your shutter speed and adjust your ISO. Start right away, and that'll embed deep within your conscious and subconscious the ability to read light at a technical level so that you can create at an artistic level. All right? All right. Onwards. We'll see you later.